Merry Christmas, I quit. Quite a few years ago, I moved into a house with a few of my best friends. One of my friends got me a job with her at the local gas station within walking distance of our house, and I thought I was pretty set with my new arrangement. Living with my best friends, able to walk to work, and a job that should have been one of the easiest positions I've ever held. That is, until I met my coworker, Jane. I worked nights. We didn't get too many customers during my shift, so the majority of the cleaning of the store and grounds and stocking of merchandise fell on night staff. We were expected to make sure there was always fresh coffee, sweep and mop the floors inside, make sure that all of our merchandise was neatly displayed, take out the trash inside and outside by the gas pumps, sweep up the parking lot, and stock the beverages, which entailed going into the walk-in fridge and stocking it from inside the cooler, which could take 2 hours or more at times. There was always 2 people scheduled on night shift. Most of my co-workers and I would split the work, and one person would don their coat and gloves and go stock the cooler for a few hours, and the other person would keep coffee made and sweep up the store and stop and ring up the occasional customer and then go back to whatever task they were on. Or one person would ring up customers the entire night and the other would do what needed to be done around the store until it was all completed. Not Jane. Jane would usually hang out in the back in the manager's office for hours or stand behind the registers doing inventory of the cigarettes and make the other employees, unfortunate enough to be scheduled with her, do all of the tasks that needed to be completed in and out of the store and have to stop and run to the register to ring people up even when she was standing right there counting the cigarettes and couldn't be bothered to even acknowledge the customers. When people called off, it was standard to call the other employees and see if someone could come in and take the shift. Most people would give a legit reason why they couldn't when they declined. That is, no sitter, family plans, etc. Not Jane. Jane would just answer with a flat no when she was called and would then hang up. My best friend came to me a few months into working at the place and told me that our manager told her that Jane said that I don't do anything during my shifts with her. Oh, hell nah. I do literally all of the work as she sits on her ass in an office or on the counters at the register station doing nothing, and she wants to say that I am the one not working. I decided I was done with that place and began looking for another job. Jane fancied herself the second in command in our store under the manager. Now, mind you, we didn't have an assistant manager with that gas station chain. There was only a manager, and there were supposed to be a few shift leads who really didn't have any power, just a few additional tasks to complete during the shifts where they were scheduled as a lead, inventory, ordering stock, etc. Jane was not actually a shift lead, but she was able to do most of the tasks of the shift lead and acted like that came with power that it didn't. She was supposedly undergoing training classes to be a lead officially and would walk around on her shift with a clipboard and make little notes here and there about things that could be improved in our store. One of her improvements was that everyone during their shift should do 1 hour stocking the cooler so that it didn't fall on one person doing it for 2 or more hours on night shift. Stocking the cooler meant having to be in temperatures below 40 degrees the entire time and was not a favorite task of anyone who worked there. The best part of this improvement was that she would harp on my coworkers about it while never stepping foot in the cooler herself to do anything that I saw in the entire time that I worked with her. Another of her improvements was that everyone had to attend a weekly mandatory team meeting because she read somewhere in one of her training books that it's supposedly policy, even though none of us, including the manager, had heard of this before she brought it up. These team meetings were universally hated and completely useless. No one wanted to go to the store for 20 minutes of pay at a time they'd otherwise be off of work, and there was literally nothing of value that was ever discussed during them, because we worked at a gas station and there wasn't much to go over that we didn't already know. The meetings were just a show of power by Jane, where she could go over her clipboard and force people to listen to her stupid observations and suggestions. Or so I was told. I missed the one meeting that was scheduled while I still worked there, as I told them I had a doctor appointment already scheduled. But in reality, I went to an interview. I came to work my shift at the gas station after receiving a call earlier in the day saying that I had passed my background check and employment verification and was offered the job that I had been seeking. I asked my shift lead how to put in my 2 weeks' notice, and she smiled and asked who I would be working with on my last day. Jane. She asked if I already officially had the job, and I confirmed that I did, and that all of my background checks were complete. She then asked me if it really wanted to put in my 2 weeks' notice, and I got her drift and told her never mind. On the shift before my last shift, I put Jane's clipboard on top of a large cabinet in the manager's office. I am tall, and it was easy to see and reach for me, but would not be for short Jane. I didn't think much of it. It was just supposed to throw her off for a few minutes until she located it easily and moved on with her day. I quickly forgot that I even did it. My last day was Christmas. I was scheduled as a split shift. From 7:10 p.m., I was scheduled with my best friend. My best friend was scheduled to get off at 10 p.m., and Jane was to come in and work her normal night shift from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. I came in at 7 and worked as I normally would and had a fun time clowning with my best friend when we had a rare moment of downtown. Being Christmas Day, there wasn't really anything else around that was open, so we were swamped as a result. My best friend left at exactly 10 p.m., but it took a few minutes for Jane to arrive. Jane walked into the store, and I came from behind the register and walked up to her and said, "Merry Christmas, I quit," and started to walk around her to leave the store. She stood there in the entryway looking shook until she finally said, "You're kidding, right?" I laughed and told her that it would not be a Merry Christmas for me if I was kidding, and then left her to the store on her own on one of the busiest nights of the year. My best friend filled me in on what happened when I left. She went through the phone list, calling everyone to see if they could come in to work my shift. Every single person just gave a simple no and hung up on her. She was left to run the store on her own for quite some time before the manager showed up to assist her. The next team meeting that she had after I left, she could not find her clipboard and had a meltdown fit in front of all of the other employees as they all stood there looking at the clipboard still on the cabinet where I had left it. She couldn't see, but they could, and they didn't feel a need to point it out. They ended up getting to go home without doing the meeting because she couldn't find her notes. They stopped doing meetings shortly after that. Now, before you start feeling sorry for my manager having to lose time with his people on Christmas Day to clean up the mess from my revenge, keep in mind that he has access to video recordings of every inch of the store and outside grounds and could easily verify how much work I was doing during my shifts before he felt the need to insult my work ethic to my best friend, based solely on the lie of one person. I'm actually glad that he was caught up in my wonderful revenge. Truth be told, I couldn't have planned it any better. I still smile broadly every time I think of this memory or walk into that chain of gas stations. TLDR, my coworker made me do all of the work when we were scheduled together. She also lied to our manager and said that I did nothing on my shifts with her, so I quit at the start of her shift and left her to do all of the work herself on the busiest day of the year, Christmas Day. Edit. I'm getting a lot of flack for posting in Pro Revenge. The only rule that I saw when posting here was that I had to go out of my way for the revenge. I figured I did by leaving my family gathering to work Christmas Day that I otherwise would not have worked to enact my revenge. A 3-hour shift on Christmas when you plan to quit anyway is hardly worth it to anyone, but I sacrificed the end of my family festivities to be able to see the look on her face when I walked out and left her to actually do her job that she normally pushed onto others. And every other shift lead was able to complete the job tasks with their fellow co-worker scheduled and do inventory if the day called for it. Jane just didn't do her job. She wasn't even really doing inventory. I was told the manager and first shift came in and really handled it by my best friend who worked first shifts. Jane was just using that as an excuse to do nothing.